name is Viraj Gandhi, as Bob mentioned. I'm the CEO of a company called Paradyme Management. I founded the company 18 years ago. So we are a government contractor. We work exclusively with the federal government across the civilian, the DoD, and then we just started doing work within the justice arenas like FBI, ATF, Secret Service. The type of work that we do is best described as higher echelon IT. So what does that mean? We do software development. So we do not have our own software, but we will take an out-of-the-box software and we will customize it because no agency can take something out of the box and say, this fits. So we will do that. We will customize software. We will make sure that all of the components that an agency has, so they have to make it simple, a payroll system, an HR system, a property management system. How do you integrate those systems and how do you make sure that those systems are spitting out the right amount of information so that the appropriate stakeholders can actually make a decision? So two really good examples of the work that we do. So the overseas personnel system at the State Department that all foreign service uses. So any foreign service member that is posted outside of the United States has an HR system that they have to enter their information into, but then also their family. So if I was foreign service in Turkey, I would say Viraj Gandhi, my wife, my two children, and that would be in the system. We built that system for the State Department and we deployed that in 180 countries. So that's one example. So I was 23 when I went out on my own. I had no idea what I was doing. I was in management consulting. Unfortunately or fortunately, I was working at the World Trade Center tower, the South Tower, the 92nd floor, up until August 27th of 2001. I was transferred. Obviously, September 11th happened not too long after that. I lost a lot of colleagues. My company that I was working for then was Keen Consulting Group, 150 people. We lost 30 people. Aon Consulting lost 387 people. These are all people that I worked with on a daily basis. So that happened. Being 22 years old and having that happen, as an American, as a New Yorker, and then as somebody who was working at the towers, going there every day for 18 months, it hits you pretty hard. But it was the opening of a opportunity for me because the company that I had worked for really just turned. We lost our largest client. So instead of being the familial company that it was and that I knew and that I thought I would be at for the rest of my life, it turned into how many billable hours are you putting in? How much money are we making on you? And that's unfortunate, but that's what happened to a lot of companies after 9/11. So I, shortly thereafter, so at the end of 2003, I had the opportunity to start my own firm. So I started Paradyme Management. I was doing work at DC government at the time. One of the folks that was managing a large IT project saw some value in me, pulled me aside and said, have you ever thought about kind of going independent? That's the way the government sort of saves money, right? Why pay a large company a ton of money for this resource when I can pay that resource directly? And that's how Paradyme Management was born. I did not want to do it under the guise of Viraj Gandhi LLC. I always thought, let's act bigger, let's look bigger, let's think bigger. So that was in 2003. I was billable until 2006. So I physically myself was managing a company or trying to grow a company, but I was also working on a project every day. I think the thing that differentiated me from a lot of other folks at that age was that I listened. I was in the room. I was 23 years old. I was around a lot of folks that knew a lot more than I did. And certainly it was intimidating, but I listened. And what I did was I took that listening ear and when people would say that they needed something, I would follow back up and say, hey, in that conversation, I heard you say you needed X. What if I found you a resource that could do X? Would that work? And people would be like, sure, not thinking anything of it. And by year 2, there were 3 more of us, right? And when you're making your own money and then you have 3 other people that you're making even a $10 margin on, now all of a sudden I'm making $30 an hour on 3 people. And that was like, at 23, 24 years old, I'm like, wow, this is working. But I think the reputation that we had was good. And I think for me, that means everything, right? When you start a business, your reputation is pretty much what is going to carry you from one customer to the next. So at 2007, 2008, we started to really look at how can we do outside work of commercial, right? How can we do work that's not government? So we landed a firm called Visteon. Visteon makes the auto parts of Ford. They make the dashboards and the inserts. We started working there. Again, we acted big. We never lied, but we said, oh yeah, we can take these things on, and we did. So we were doing all of the integration. So all of the systems in North America that needed to talk to one another, we were doing that, based in Michigan. And they said, hey, we want you to take on South America. So great. So we took on South America. Then they said, hey, we need you to take on Asia. So I'm like, holy crap, this is, we're billing $1 million a quarter, which is the largest customer. I mean, we were like a $400,000 or $500,000 company that turned into a $3 million company just by this one client. So you can imagine the growth. I flew to India. I started to figure out if we needed to take over, Asia operations, how would that work? So as it was, I mean, I was already a little scared that I was biting off a little too much than I could chew, but you're hungry. I'm not going to say I was greedy. I was hungry, right? I wanted to make a name for Paradyme. I wanted to make a name for myself. Our payments kept getting pushed, right? They went from 30 days to 45 days to 50 days. And I wasn't reading the news. I was too busy to read the news, but what I should have seen is that Visteon, Fortune 100 company back then, was headed towards bankruptcy. So in February of 2008 or 2009, excuse me, they filed bankruptcy. They owed us about $750,000, and then we owed our people that worked for us, because they're, when you're a contractor, it was very it was a very an easy thing to work with contractors, where you can pay them when you got paid. So a lot of people work that way. So we owed our folks like $300,000. So you're looking at like $1 million hole. My business partner and I both believe in karma. We had a very, very tough sit down with one another, and decided that we were going to take the money in our bank account, personal and Paradyme, and pay the people that we owed money. So you go from this high of being a CEO at 23, being able to travel and take vacations because I was able to afford it, to not being able to buy myself lunch, and looking at an apartment with one chair and a box as a coffee table. It was probably the lowest point that I've ever reached. I think transparency is really important. And as an entrepreneur, my personal life and my professional life are like this. And I think that's what you sign up for when you become an entrepreneur, is that your personal life and the people around you are integrated in the things that you're doing, and they push you to be better, and they're there to pick you up. And so this is part of my story, and that's why it's important. Fortunately for me, as we've grown, it's somehow made me look human to my employees who don't necessarily know me. Here's a guy who started a company, runs a company, and is telling us how sad he was and how divorced he was, and how much money he had in his bank account. So I don't share that for pity, but I share that because this is just the life of my entrepreneur, journey. So just back to the story, 2009, 2010, as you can imagine, were very, very tough. We were going to close shop. And then we had a strategy session and figured out we wanted to keep doing this. We wanted to keep doing this together. So we went back and we got scrappy. We went back to DC government and we said, hey, we're back. We want to do some work. They gave us some work, but we started to realize that the only place that you can get multi-million-dollar contracts over a span of multi-years is the federal government. So we never changed who we were. The same things that I told you we do, the integration work, the software development work, those are all the things that we did when I started the firm in 2003. Those are still the same things that we do now. So I feel like our identity has always been there, but it's just how do you morph to play in the big leagues, right? I mean, doing federal government work is not easy. And I don't want to be on the cover of the Washington Post as the person that failed, the Census Bureau or the State Department. So it took a lot of gall to a lot of just like, um, self-esteem, putting pride aside. I mean, putting all the losses aside to say, we're going to take one more stab at this. And we did. And, it was a tough like 4 years where we just didn't know what we were doing, but we believed. And I think that's the biggest piece of any lesson that I would ever impart is just if you believe in yourself and you believe in the people around you, it may not work the first time, it may not work the 100th time, but it's going to work. As I've grown and gotten older and the company has grown, I will talk to not anybody, but we have a board, and I'm very, very open with my shortcomings, the company shortcomings, and where I need help. I've become very confident in the ability to ask for help, and I think that's what you need to do. I didn't do that early on, and I think early on I wasn't transparent and I wasn't open. I would go to lunch and somebody would say, "How you doing?" I'd be like, "I'm great." But inside, I'm like fighting this thing. I'm not great at all. So the transparency that I've learned through just maturing, but then also, there's an organization that I was part of when I started speaking with you guys, which was called Entrepreneurs Organization. I've now graduated and I'm in YPO, which is Young Presidents Organization. And the difference there is the revenue threshold is just larger. And I happen to be the chair of my YPO chapter right now for this year. But that's who I talk to. And I have no qualms about telling people where I need help and how I need help. And it's been really great to have that support system. So we started federal government contracting in 2011. We won our first contract with 4 people in 2012. That very same contract today, 10 years later, has 120 people on it and does $30 million, just that one contract. So, when I look at the years between 2012 and 2017, part of what we did as a company is we collectively became more transparent. Our mission statement talks about people, purpose, and process, right? And what that means is we're a people business. So all of our employees is what makes us who we are. The purpose is to be the best government contractor you can be, but the purpose is really to hit the mission of every agency that we work with. And the process is how we do things. And those 3 things have become the bond to who we are and who we became between the years of 2012 to 2016. So in 2012, we were under 9 million. We closed 2021 at over 60 million. I have 320 people that are Paradigmers. It's been a phenomenal ride. I'm humbled every time I get to do things like this, but I'm also humbled that when I speak to my firm about the things that they've done, because I started this company when I was 23 on my kitchen table. Never in a million years did I think that I would be able to hire some of the people that we've hired, which I'll talk about. And never did I think that I would be talking to folks like you all, right? And you guys wanting to hear my story. My theory is if you work at Nike and you work in the shoe department at Nike, you should know that Nike does 50 other things, right? It's really important for you to know what the company that you're working for does. So for me, if people are on our census account or our state account or our FBI account, they know what's going on there. It is my job to let them know what is going on in the rest of the company, good, bad, or ugly. And I've had those ugly conversations about us losing things and us, not winning a recompete. But I've also had the great conversations about, winning more work and having the opportunity for somebody to move from a contract at state that they've been on for 3 years and jump over to the FBI so that they have a whole new work life that is presented to them. So I do them on Zoom, right? So every month I do 12 or now 14 of these. This is hard, right? We had people that did not turn on their cameras because, well, I'm working from home. I'm in my pajamas. My hair's not done. So I started going to these meetings in a sweatshirt and not combing my hair and having a little scruff and standing up and saying, I'm in my pajamas. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not working, but I'm comfortable. And people started switching their cameras on. This says the dream is free. The hustle is sold separately. And this is not only in my office, but this is all around my house. It's